Okay, this is part 9 of the book review of Digestive Tune-Up by Dr. Mcdougall. And this is going to be the last one of the lectures. Okay, so we're just going to go through the last 3 chapters of the book. Basically, there's a chapter on beneficial bowel bacteria, and the only thing you need to know is that good bacteria feed on fiber. So if you eat a high fiber diet, the good bacteria will predominate in your colon, and they do a lot of good things for you. They help protect the intestinal barrier. They help prevent leaky gut. They get along well with your immune system, and this prevents irritable bowel syndrome to a large degree, inflammatory bowel disease. It's all good. When babies are born through a vaginal delivery, they get good bacteria from the mother's vaginal canal, and they also get it from her breast milk, or they get the sugars to promote it. If a baby's born by C-section, not as much, but they eat every day. They're only born once. A good duration for breastfeeding is like 2 years. Modern women, a lot of them barely breastfeed at all. Formula is really not that good for babies. Women, in my opinion, should be given longer than 3 months. They should be given a minimum of 6 months to really help these babies. But nobody cares about the pearls. Nobody cares about the pearl babies, so you have to just educate yourself. When you switch diet, it takes about 1 or 2 weeks to really sort of switch the gut bacteria. That's why you'll often have bloating, the farts, maybe even Hershey squirts when you change the diet, because there's sort of a battle between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria to take over dominance in your colon. And again, good bacteria feed on fiber. The bad bacteria feed on all the junk from processed food and meat. And that's all you need to know. I know you're going to hear other lectures elsewhere about all the different types of bacteria, but you really only need to think of them as being 2, good and bad. And the way you can remember it is the good bacteria are symbiotic with us. They've sort of co-evolved with us for who knows how many years, okay? And our colon is a good apartment for them, so they're quite happy to live in there with us eating plant foods. Dr. Mcdougall does go into the probiotics a bit on these pages listed here, pages 121 to 3 and 132. Talks briefly about flatulence, the farts, and the main issue is, he says, all the sulfur amino acids that are present in meat and dairy. So that's where the expression, he says, cut the cheese comes from. And basically, if you avoid animal foods, you'll have less sulfur in your gut, and your farts won't smell as bad. So you might have seen on TV or comedy shows people talking about they can tell meat eater farts from vegan farts, and there's actually some truth in that. White rice is low in fiber, but if you're eating a 100% vegan diet, you'll still get enough fiber. Another thing he talked a little bit about the history of the evolution of the human intestinal tract and human physiology. One reference he made to was about evolution. And you have to remember, colleges are run based on a philosophy of atheistic Darwinism. Okay, this was not in the book. This is now my opinion. This is not Dr. Mcdougall's opinion. I was a major in evolutionary biology at Stanford. I was an A+ student. I've read about 50 books on the subject since that time about biology. And I'm telling you, there is a big movement amongst the university academic circles to push this atheistic Darwinism stuff and try to say that humans are like chimps. And they will tell you, some of them will say 96, other ones say 98% overlap of our DNA. You got to remember, there's a lot of overlap in all animal DNA because we have some similar biochemical pathways. We've all got glycolysis, these multicellular organisms, all mammals, we've got mitochondria and we've got Krebs cycle. So there's going to be a lot of similarity for those sorts of things in our DNA sequence, but the regulatory DNA is quite different. And so what I'm trying to tell you is to say that this ugly, foul-looking chimpanzee creature is the same thing as Jane Goodall is crazy, okay? Let me ask you a question. Every man, when he sees a woman, he can't even help it. He doesn't do it on purpose. His brain just automatically asks the question, would you sleep with her, okay? You see Jane Goodall and you say, well, gee, she's an attractive, skinny woman, probably fertile. Everything else being good? Yeah, I would, okay? Your brain just makes that decision. You don't even consciously do it. It just happens unconsciously, okay? Because it's very dangerous in the wild to approach a woman, okay, and with romantic intent, okay? She could yell and scream, and then her dad, her boyfriend, her brother, her husband kicks your butt and beats you up or something, and it's not good. Or she just embarrasses you in front of your friends. So you're not going to approach a woman with romantic intent unless you biologically, evolutionarily have a possibility of creating a baby with her, okay? So if she's fat, that's not attractive, because to our ancestors that meant she was either pregnant or postmenopausal. Okay, so you can't have a baby with her. And so what I'm trying to say is there is nothing in the world that could make any sane human want to have sex with a chimp. Okay, they're disgusting. You ever see them walk around on all fours? They look like giant spiders. They're not 2% like us. They're not 5% like us. They're very different. Our brain, our cerebral cortex is like 3 times as big as theirs. They're stupid. They can't even count, okay? And they're ugly and disgusting. They're also really strong. I think they got less inhibition of their muscle contraction. They're like 3 times as strong as us. They could kick our ass, okay? What I'm trying to get is, look at these 2 girls. These are sisters, okay? They look about 90% similar, okay? They look very much alike, all right? So I can buy it if somebody tells me they're about 90% alike, those 2, even with their regulatory DNA. But this creature, no way. Not even with a case of beer on board would any sane man want to make the 2-back beast with a chimp, okay? It's ridiculous. So that's why you got to be careful. And so this is where I'm disagreeing with Mcdougall. He kind of quoted that 96% overlap between chimps and us. BS. They're much more different than us than is widely recognized, okay? They're knuckle-walking, dumb, violent, stupid animals, okay? Okay, the chapter on evolution. Most apes are essentially vegetarians, but, if you ever watch these videos, you'll see them. They'll hunt other monkeys. If another group of a monkey tribe or village or something is nearby them, and they cross into the other monkey's territory, the other chimpanzee's territories, they will kill the male chimpanzee. They'll gang up on them. They'll rip them apart. I think they eat them too, like cannibals. So chimps are brutal, okay? Absolutely brutal. They're not nice, okay? They hunt colobus monkeys. They kill them and they eat them. They eat some insects. You've seen them use a tool where they put a stick into the mound of insects and they pull them out and they eat some. They also got big teeth. They got a nasty bite, those chimps. We don't have big, sharp teeth, okay? We've got little tiny teeth. Even our so-called canine teeth are tiny. They are not for tearing flesh. Our jaw can go side to side, which is a design for grinding plant foods, not a fixed forward bite like a true carnivore, like a cat, which makes the bite much stronger to rip flesh. We don't have that, okay? And I would say, imagine you are walking down a path in a forest and you see a dead deer at the side of the pathway, and it's got flies buzzing around it. Do you get this intense urge, I want to get down on my knees and take a bite out of it? No, it's kind of disgusting, okay? And your teeth are so weak and flimsy you can't even rip its flesh. On the other hand, if we put a bowl of fruits and vegetables on a table, you would salivate because you're made for that. Okay, our saliva contains amylase to digest starch. Carnivores do not have that. Carnivores have much, much, much more stomach acid than humans for digesting protein. Carnivores have short intestinal tracts to run the meat in and out of their bodies quickly before it putrefies, it rots. We have long intestinal tracts like horses and like the primates, the apes. Humans can't make vitamin C because we get tons of it in our plant foods that we eat. Our hands are made for gathering plants. We don't have the claws for ripping flesh, like lions and tigers and bears. Okay, what does a Mcdougall diet include? It's basically a low-fat vegan diet based on starches for the vast majority of your calories. Mcdougall says you can eat 90% of your calories from starches, as many healthy populations have done. The Papua New Guinea, for example, ate 93% of their calories from sweet potato. Walter Kempner was feeding his patients about 94% of their calories from carbohydrates. Mcdougall diet, similar to the Esselstyn diet, a lot of times ends up somewhere around 80-10-10. 80% carbohydrates, 10% protein, 10% fat. Mcdougall diet starches include whole grain pastas, whole grain breads, whole grain tortillas, whole grain cereals, as well as squashes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, carrots, and beans. Leafy green vegetables include, and then also things like broccoli, cabbage, collard greens, kale, lettuce, spinach. Other foods including celery, cauliflower, asparagus, tomatoes, fruits. He limits fruits to 2 or 3 per day. And some people would disagree with that. There's some pretty famous people in the nutrition community who believe you can eat a lot more fruit than that. One of the things you'll notice, though, is Mcdougall's diet is very low in fat. There's no high-fat foods, not a single one that I'm aware of here. I don't see any of them. He does not promote beans, seeds, and all that other stuff. I know as of late, after he became all skinny and stuff, I heard him one time say he was eating nuts because his weight was lower than he wanted it to be. but he didn't traditionally promote nuts. And he did say in one lecture that he felt nuts were over-promoted, that it was funded by industry with regard to the Seventh-day Adventist studies. Okay, I heard him specifically say that. Esselstyn says no nuts. Okay, continuing with Dr. Mcdougall, and what things does he forbid from his diet? He says nothing from an animal, ever. No oils, no white flour, no chocolate, sort of implies no sweets, no chocolate, no coffee, no decaf coffee, no black tea, no soda pop. So I think that's basically it. So there's a lot of knowledge there. I hope that was interesting and useful for you. And that completes our book review of the great book, Digestive Tune-Up by Dr. John Mcdougall, the best doctor who ever lived.